I'm Candace Williams, and this is my story of my journey of my weight loss and trials that have taken me 26 years to overcome, and to this day still try to overcome. So I have my recorder with me, who is Jamisha Johnson, and she's a dear friend of mine, and I am going to be getting some questions asked by some friends that have actually contacted me with either concerns or even just suggestions, ideas, congratulations, and questions that they may have had for me. I'm not very good at this, so I'm kind of nervous, but hopefully I'll get better at it, and hopefully everybody can understand and I guess relate to what I'm saying.
Question 1. What was your breaking point that's making you be so successful in your weight losing process?
I think for me, my breaking point was a combination of limitations as well as realizations of how big I actually was getting. When I got to my highest, it was 460 pounds, and it's like, luckily I guess I didn't really have that many friends. In a way it was a good thing, because I wasn't really around that many people. I didn't really notice, it didn't hit me that I was actually that big. And so then I went and started working at my job, and we had to go through a health assessment, and the scales there went to 440, and I couldn't even weigh myself the first year that I was there, and it was embarrassing, and I mean, just, it really hit me on that day of how big I actually had become. And so then on top of that, after getting to be a certain weight, probably around maybe 420, 430, or even probably even before then, I just didn't realize it. Going to the fair, Emerald Point, places like that was not even an option anymore. I couldn't fit in the rides. I couldn't barely fit in any of the seats or chairs at school. I would have to get custom desks made, or have the principal bring in certain things so I can be comfortable, or sit at tables when it was like the only table in the room. So it was always just a limitation factor, but I guess I just didn't really notice it until I realized that 460 was almost at 500, and it's like, that's like half of 1,000, and it just kind of sunk in and just kind of, hit me, I guess.
Question 2. How would you help someone who's been through your situation with your weight loss, the teasing, the cutting, and the self-esteem issues you had before the weight loss, and the ones you continue to battle with?
That is a great question. First and foremost, I would like to just state that in terms of cutting, I haven't done that in over a year and a half, but for anybody that knows me, was a very negative and pessimistic person a few years ago, and I was very suicidal, and I was a self-cutter, and I cut for many years. I still, to this day, have urges to do that, but I actually went and got this tattoo to make sure that I didn't cut anymore. So I no longer do that. But in terms of the actual self-esteem issues, I struggle with my self-esteem every day, and even now, after losing 272 pounds and hopefully, soon to be 300, I still think that I'll always have a negative view of who I am, and it's probably because of all the stuff that I had to endure when I was growing up, or with the teasing. So right now, to be honest, don't think that I could really help anybody with that factor, except for to tell my story and to tell people that it is possible to overcome what people may have thought you were, or what you could have been, and to make sure that you don't have to repeat the lessons or the things that your family or your friends might say you have to. And for me, it's like, my mom, she was a very loving, very good mother, but she got sick when I was very young, and it was basically me always being the independent one. So I was always alone, I was always by myself, or the artistic one and the writer, and so I didn't have any friends, and I was teased very much when I was growing up. We were very poor. My mom raised me and my sister by herself with no help, and with her being on disability, that was very tough just to begin with. And on top of that, with me being biracial, I also was teased because of that. So I kind of got hit on different levels, and there were some moments where I would come home and literally just not want to and wake up the next day. And it's like, for a kid to feel that way, it's a little bit worse, I guess, than an adult, because you really shouldn't have that kind of responsibility when you're, 10 or 11 years old. But with me, I guess I kind of grew up early, and luckily, I guess it kind of helped me, because when I was in school and I didn't have friends, or I didn't have the connections, I would just go and read, or I would go and do something active, or volunteer, or do something productive, but I also would eat. So for me, it became an escape, and food became, I guess, a way to just forget about stuff. And even though it was temporary, I would just keep eating. And obviously, when I got to be 460 pounds, even in high school, I was, I believe, like 320, 340. So I was quite larger than most students were. And again, I couldn't fit in the desk. And I remember one incident where I was walking and I tripped on the stairs and I fell, and a group of kids started singing the rolling, rolling, rolling song that they have on the commercials, and it's like, you don't really know how cool people can be until you really have to deal with it. But then, because it's like everybody, it's the whole nature, it's the whole department. And that was my dog, yeah, Mary Jane, she's here. But at the same time, it's like, I feel blessed to have to go through the teasing, because with everything that I had to go through with the teasing, I feel like that is the story that I can tell. That is the help that I can give, because I did go through it all. And I mean, my best friend was a dog when I was growing up, and still is. Not the same one, but I mean, I couldn't stand people. I couldn't stand to be around people. I couldn't stand to be around myself. And even now, I have the worst problem accepting any kind of compliment, any kind of, I guess you could say, congratulations, because I still feel so worthless, and I feel so, I guess, just destroyed in terms of my image and in terms of how I feel like I am to the world. But it's like, I know that I'm intelligent, I know that I'm talented, I know that I'm a hard worker, and I'm a good person. But sadly, people don't really look at that. They don't care about those factors. And a lot of times, it's really just about, what you look like, how much money you have, your connections. And sadly, I didn't have any of that. I was, a 300-pound biracial rocker chick who, had no family, and I just did the best I could. And if I can make it, if I can do this, then anybody can. Go ahead.
Question 3. Why did you choose to lose weight naturally instead of surgery?
I think for me, one, with my mom and her being sick and her illnesses, I always had a phobia / fear of doctors and hospitals and any kind of health type setting like that. So I try to do any and everything possible to not go to a doctor. So that was the first thing that just made me completely be against surgery. And although I'm not against surgery for those who honestly feel like it's their last option, I don't want it to seem like I'm in any way thinking that's negative for those. I know a lot of friends that have had it, but for me, I just never considered it to even be an option. One, because again, I never had that kind of money. I always felt like if I had $3,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 sitting around, I was going to go get a car or buy DVDs or do something else besides, pay a doctor to, to operate on me. I could never fathom wanting to do that. But at the same time, I understand the mentality of getting to that point where you just feel like you have no other option. I think luckily for me, I've always been a strong-willed person, and even when I was almost 500 pounds, I was that fat girl in gym class that was going to make it around the track. Like I still would always try. I may not be the first one, I may not be done, I may not beat the cheerleaders or anything like that, but I would always try. And so with me, I felt like I would never completely rule out surgery, just like with the extra skin. That's one thing that I'm considering possibly having done if I need to, but I work out extensively and try to do everything naturally to make that not even happen. But I've considered the option that it might. And so I don't rule out surgery, but I always told myself I would try everything. And I wouldn't be an excuse maker, and I wouldn't lie to myself and say I've tried everything when I honestly didn't try everything. And the truth is, it's science. If you eat less and you work out more, you will lose weight. And although there are certain conditions I know that factor into that, majority of people don't have those conditions. The percentage of thyroid conditions and things like that are not as large as people who just are lazy or sad and depressed and use it as an escape factor, which is what I was. I'm speaking of myself. And so I finally realized that if I honestly did the work and I put in the effort, it would take longer and it would be a lot more time, but it would be, to me, worth it, because I feel like when you have the surgery, you don't learn anything. You know, you go in there, you have the surgery, you eat less because you can't eat anymore, but after that, you're not learning anything. You're not changing your lifestyle. And for me, especially having to get to that weight, it wasn't because I love food. You can love food and still be small. You can be a chef and still be healthy. But I just took it to a whole nother level because to me it was my escape. So I knew that there was other things that I had to change about myself that weight loss surgery could not do. So I decided to venture on a self journey, and I used to smoke cigarettes. I stopped smoking. I used to cut. I stopped cutting. So for me, it was about changing who I was versus just changing what I ate and getting a surgery that could possibly make me look better, but me still feel completely miserable. And now when I work out or when I go running, when before I couldn't even, I couldn't even exercise when I first started because a lot of the machines wouldn't even go above a certain weight. And so I would do 5 minutes, walking, and I would be out of breath. I would be just miserable. And then now to come so far and to be where I'm at now, it's like I can't even believe that I'm that person. And with surgery, I would never have that accomplishment. I wouldn't have that feeling of doing something and actually working for it. And I can honestly say I have worked my ass off. It is gone, and it is because of all the work that I'm putting into it. And I couldn't ask for anything more than that.
So why did you choose Weight Watchers?
Well, Weight Watchers is the program that I decided to do, and I've joined Weight Watchers, I'd probably say at least 18 times, and I'm not even exaggerating a little bit when I say that. And it always worked, but at the same time, as with every kind of habit or addiction, I should say, I had to be ready to give it up, or I had to be ready to make that step. And with Weight Watchers, I never felt restricted. Every time I did it, I felt like I could do it. I felt like it was an actual program. I love organization, and I love school, and I love learning. So to me, when they say, oh, you bring out a little notepad and you're tracking points, I'm just, I'm like, oh, really? I get to track points? So for me, it was like I felt like it was giving me something to do, and that takes your mind off eating. And then again, from there, it just kind of became easier, with technology, with today's, apps and phones. It's like you can do everything online. So I joined Weight Watchers because it worked, and then ultimately, as you keep going, I've now been doing it almost 3 years, and the people that I've met, the leader that I go to, the groups of people that I even talk with, you hear their stories, and you see them cry, and you see their gains, and you go through your bad weeks, and to have that kind of support, it works kind of like, my AA, because it is an addiction, and with food, you can't cut it out. Like with alcohol, you can live without it. You can go your life without it. You can go your life without drugs, but you cannot stop eating. And with me, it's like when you're addicted to the feeling food gives you, you have to find support. You can't, or I couldn't do it alone. And so I joined, and I would think I could, and every time I would quit and I would gain it back. And so I finally decided that this was my time to be happy, and this was my time to be, not that miserable girl anymore. So I decided to stick with it, And even on the weeks that I have a bad day or a bad week or a gain or anything like that, I don't look at it as a failure. I just look at it as, you know, that was just this week. I still have next week, whereas before I didn't even want to make it to the next day. So I think it just really helped structure my life, and it gave me a platform to really begin. And then once I started losing, I incorporated fitness and I incorporated working out, and from there it just changed my life.
What are some of the most hurtful things that have been said or done to you because of your weight?
There's a couple examples that stand out. Obviously there's hundreds of different examples, I guess, but probably the most hurtful would be with the Big Brother Big Sisters program. I'm certainly not saying anything negative about the program as a whole, because I've had tremendous experiences with it in the past when I was a kid. But there was one big sister, I guess you could say, in particular. I don't even recall her name, which is, I guess, probably her own fault. But she was really active. She was really small, and I had just got out of a 2-year big sister who had to go to college and had to leave and move out of state. So I was very fragile anyway. I was already very depressed kid and very unhappy, and so they paired me with her because she was young, energetic, and they thought it would be a good match. And I remember the first time that we went to our outing, she took me to a track, and I don't know if they had like pictures or if they gave them like some kind of profile before they see you or if she just might have been psychic and knew I was like, you know, this little fat kid. But the fact that we went to a track kind of stood out to me a little bit. And I remember when I first started, you know, running, because she wanted me to run or jog, you know, and run around with her, I thought, you know, oh, this is going to be fun. And then she kind of stopped and wanted me to keep going. And I kind of realized, or it kind of started feeling like I was being trained, or like I was, I guess, cattle being round up. And mind you, at that time I was like 10 or 11 years old, and I was probably about 200 pounds even as a kid. I was very, I think I was wearing a 3 or 2X when I was in middle school. So I was a very chubby kid, and so I couldn't even run. I remember not even, what is it, a quarter of the track, which I think is like not even 50 feet. And I remember telling her that I just couldn't do it, and she would huff and puff like she was kind of disgusted. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm disappointing her, and I felt so, I guess, wrong, and I felt like I was wrong being who I was, if that makes any sense. Like I felt like being fat or not being able to run the track made me less of a person. And so I actually started crying, and then from there she, I guess, got irritated or impatient, and she actually just, you know, she told me she didn't want to see me anymore, and that I was not the little sister that she was looking for, because she did not want to have anybody that was as big as me. And she actually said it to me pretty much just like that. And I remember I didn't really know what to say or how to feel because I was like a kid, and I didn't really know how to take it in, I guess. And then when I went home, as soon as I said it to my mom and she, you know, flipped out, I guess it started sinking in, you know, like, you know, well, does that mean that she didn't want me, you know, or was I, you know, just not good enough? And it's like, after it started sinking in, it just, I didn't want, we called and canceled the program. I didn't want any other, you know, big sisters. I didn't want any mentors. I didn't, from that point on, I remember telling my mom I just wanted a casket, you know, for my birthday, because I just didn't want to be around anybody. Like, I just felt so useless. And from there, that's actually when I started cutting, was right around 12 or 13. And I mean, even when I was young, it was never small. It was always from one instance to another. So I think from that instance, it just went to other instances, and it just kept building up. And so another issue that was probably most hard for me would be my prom. So we're kind of jumping ahead about, you know, 8 years or so. But when I was in high school, I was obviously at one of my highest weights, which was around 420 pounds. And when I was a senior, I was probably even larger than that, but I don't recall exactly what I weighed. I I didn't go to my senior prom, but my junior prom, I remember I got asked for a couple of my friends who were going to get together, some of my girlfriends, and just, you know, go as a group of friends and not really have any date or anything like that. I wasn't really into the whole party scene anyway, so I was just wanting to go have a good time. Well, when I first decided to actually go, we went to the mall and we went, you know, dress shopping, and a lot of my friends, they were, you know, beautiful girls physically and, you know, emotionally and mentally, but I was jealous of a lot of them, and one of them in particular, she's, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes, just gorgeous, and she's got beautiful personality, and, you know, she was going with me shopping, and I couldn't find anything to even try on, not even like a Sunday dress, yet alone a prom or a formal dress. And then when I could find a dress that I could fit, it would either be too much money that I couldn't afford it, or it would be something that I guess you could say wouldn't really be appropriate to wear in a setting like that, to a high school prom. And plus I believe they even had a dress code at the time. And so I ended up having to make my dress, and there were comments made by certain individuals that I guess you could say really kind of stuck with me. One comment that was made was that I was so big I would have to wear a tent to prom. And with that, it's like it kind of partnered with the fact that I couldn't find anything. I actually at one point thought, you know, will I really have to wear a tent? Or will I really have to go and get, you know, a tablecloth or a sheet to try to make some sort of dress? And ultimately I ended up having to do that, and I just made a black square type dress, I guess if you even want to call it that, and I put together some shoes that I could fit because my feet were just too wide to even buy any kind of actual dress shoe or heel or platform or anything like that. And I remember thinking, you know, as long as the dress covered the shoes, it wouldn't matter. So when I was making the dress and when I was having the seamstress, you know, sew it, I made sure that it was at least like 6 inches longer so it dragged the floor. And then I had to get extra sleeves made because my arms were so big that I couldn't go strapless and I couldn't go without any kind of sleeves. So I ended up having to have extra sleeves made. And ultimately I was miserable, and I turned this event that was supposed to be, I guess, a girl's, you know, dream day or dream night, whatever, to basically just a miserable teasing event, because obviously I got teased quite a bit when I got to prom because I wasn't in a normal dress or I wasn't in the right shoes, and obviously I was quite large, so just the general teasing was already there anyway. And I ended up leaving the prom early and going home and playing Monopoly with some friends of mine, and I didn't even go to my senior prom because of that. I didn't go to any of my award ceremonies. I won several scholarships and grants, and I wouldn't even go and get them because I just didn't want to go in front of the crowds. And I used to sing and play the piano and do a lot of things like that, and it's like now I won't do any of that because I just feel so I guess worthless. I feel like my whole appearance is just destroyed because of all the things that people have said, or the teasing and the bullying. And it's like now a lot of the things that make me happy I can't even enjoy because of the memories and the trials. Like even this video is really difficult for me to make. I have to relive it. But I wanted to make sure that I share my story, and I wanted to make sure that I was real with my story, because I know that a lot of people go through what I've been through, and I know that a lot of people go through even more, because even with everything that I've been through, I know that I'm blessed and I could be so much worse off. But it's like I feel there's no excuse worth being that miserable, and there's no excuse worth having people make you feel that, like, you shouldn't be here, or that you're not meant to be here.
Do you think you have or will ever overcome all of those harsh comments and things that have been said to you?
I don't know if I'll per se overcome it. I definitely will never forget it. And I don't think I'll ever look at myself and think that I'm beautiful. But at the same time, I have made tremendous progress on my self-worth and where I've come from. So I do think that there's hope that I can build from that. And I feel like I can maybe in some way become happy, even if I'm not perfect or even if I'm not ideal. I have to accept the fact that I'm not perfect. And I think that to me is the biggest accomplishment that I can ask for, because once I feel like I can accept myself even with extra skin, or even with, you know, a roll here or there, I feel like that's the true happiness, when I can love myself. And right now I can be honest to say that I don't, and I'm working on it. I am definitely working on it, but it's the hardest part of this journey by far. The losing weight is hard, and the working out is definitely hard, but the mental effect that people's words and actions have on other people, I don't think they really realize how strong it can be. And even now, I'm 26 years old, and I'll walk through, you know, playground or even in the mall, and you see, you know, the little chubby kid, and you see the kids picking on him, and it's like, I just want to walk up and just say something, but you know, I'm not that kid's parent, and I'm not that, you know, other kids, you know, parent, so it's not my place. But it's like, anybody that has children, anybody that's been through any kind of teasing, I can't believe that they would even repeat it. And the sad thing is, a lot of the people that actually teased me in high school, they were teased themselves, or they had issues themselves, and they would not, I guess, accept it, and they wouldn't be happy until they made other people miserable. And I had to feel bad for them, so in a way I can forgive them, but I don't think I'll never forget it, and I definitely will I'll never get back the years and the memories and the things that I lost because of all the different teasing and the times that I just didn't even want to go to school because of everything that was happening.
Do you ever resort back to your old habits, such as overeating or cutting?
Yes, I do. And I think that that's a really important question to touch base on, only because a lot of people will see the outward appearance of me right now, and they'll see the smiling person that I am, or the positive person that I'm trying to become, but they don't see the behind the scenes person, or the person that cries every day, and the person that struggles every day still to feel somewhat accepted within the society. So I think that for me, it's never going to be done. It's never going to be over. And as a matter of fact, you know, my website, my slogan, the last tattoo I plan on getting is Unending Battle. And it's because it is always going to be a struggle. It is always going to be a challenge. I will never, ever be completely cured of craving food or craving cutting or those escapes, because it wasn't the food, it wasn't the actual cutting that I craved. It was the effect after, the release of that pain, the release of the memory, the realization, escaping, I guess you could say, those few minutes, those few hours, whatever the case may be, of that time. So even to this day, I have my bad days, I have my bad weeks. As a matter of fact, I've actually been recently trying to tell myself or remotivate myself to keep going, because even after doing it for almost 3 years, I'm getting impatient and I'm getting to a point where I'm like, you know, how much more work do I have to do? And it's hard. And on top of that, I go to school full time. You know, I help take care of my mom, my family. You know, I work a lot. And then on top of that, I work out, 3 to 5 times a day. So I am a busy person, but I refuse to go back completely to where I was. So on the days where I do overeat, on the days where I have my depressing days, or I feel just disgusting and don't want to even look in the mirror, I go back and I look at my old pictures, or I'll look at the place that I've came from and I'll see how far I've come, and I realize it's just not worth it. Nothing is worth going back to where I was. Nothing is worth gaining that weight back. Nothing is worth, I guess, demolishing my art or my personality, because this is now who I am. And so to me, although I've still got a long way to go mentally and accepting who I am and feeling beautiful or feeling even somewhat attractive, I know that at least as a human being, I am worth something. I am worth at least the fact of having a life. And so if I'm going to be here, if I'm going to live, if I'm going to be on this earth, I'm going to at least try to be happy. And I'm going to at least try to do it the best way that I can. And I'm going to fail. I'm going to make mistakes. And that's why I want to make sure everybody understands that with me, it was no easy way. There has not been a single easy moment in this entire journey. It's rewarding to see the hard work pay off. But there are days that I want to just quit. There are days that I do just throw my hands up. I'll be in the gym, yelling at myself, yelling at the machines because I'm just so tired. But I push myself because I think about the pain that I had before. I remember not fitting in those swings. I remember not riding the rides at the fair. I remember not being able to walk up a flight of stairs without feeling like I was about to cave in and die. And I will not ever go back to that. So even though it's okay to mess up, I think the only failure or true failure is when you give up. And I will not ever give up.
Okay. I remember you when you were 16. And I remember the first thing you said to me was that you didn't plan on living past the age of 21. And you were not very proud of yourself, even though you were a beautiful person then too. Are you proud of where you are now?
One, I can't believe that I've even known you that long, that you've seen that transformation. But just to touch base, since it was mentioned, I was very negative when I first, I guess you could say, even started any kind of journey, whether it was the job, which is where I met Jamisha at. So when I first met her, I didn't want to live past a certain age, and I wasn't planning on killing myself, because although I'm not the strictest in religion belief, I do believe in God, and I do believe that killing yourself is the easy way out. And although I was very unhappy, I was never a weak person, and I didn't ever want to give in that way. So although I wasn't going to kill myself, I was hoping that God would kind of just see it my way and not make me endure any more of the life that I had to go through when I was young. And so with me, after I started my journey, I had no self-worth. I was not proud of anything, not even my intellect, not my skills and art, anything that I could do, I had no kind of assurance on. And I think now, even though I have a long way to go, and even though I am not, to me I'm still not beautiful, and to me I'm still not attractive, and I know that that's something I have to work on mentally. I am definitely proud of what I have accomplished, and I'm proud of what I've done. And I know that not many people can say that they've done it naturally. And again, although I have nothing against people who have had surgery, I can't say how much it means to me to be able to say that I have done this, even on top of everything that I've been faced with, and even on top of everything that I've been through. When I wanted to go back and eat, or when I wanted to cut, I made the decision to change my life. And I made the decision to actually want to live versus wanting to die. And so I think for me, I'm proud in that accomplishment. I'm proud of where I've come as a human being, and I'm proud of where I'm at right now. But I also know that I have a long way to go mentally, physically, emotionally, before I'm actually truly happy with myself. But I definitely think that I'm a lot further advanced than what I was.